My significant other, and I have been together for 4 years, and about 2 years ago when the Rona hit, I moved in with him as we both lost our respective jobs and needed to save a bit from gas and utilities. Since then I have found a new office job and so take some odd jobs online, but he basically stays at home most of the time. So has always been on the controlling side. He wanted me to cut all my male friends from my life. Hindsight is 20/20, I know, but in his defense, he also cut all contacts with women, or at least to my knowledge. So has always been very adamant that he doesn't condone cheating, and even if someone else in his life was a cheater, he would cut them out of his life. The relationship has had its ups and downs. We have had a fair share of arguments, and a few months ago we hit a rough patch, but recently things were looking okay for a while, or so I thought. So has become quite guarded with his phone lately, including hiding it if I look over his shoulder. He has never done this before and it's very not like him. I am very open with my personal tech items. He's always welcome to look through my phone and laptop because I have nothing to hide. We even know each other's phone passwords. My gut feeling kept telling me that something was wrong, so when I got up for work this morning while he was still sleeping, I admit, I shouldn't have done what I did. I took his phone from the nightstand and checked out his conversations. So has been chatting with a girl he met online, 25? I only skimmed through the last few messages as I didn't want him to wake up and catch me snooping, but they have been texting back and forth every day while I was at work and sending each other nudes. I was so shook and disgusted. I don't know when it all started, but I assume it's been at least a month because that's when I first noticed he's suspicious phone guarding behavior. Honestly, no matter how much I look for a solution, there's no coming back from this. I know I have to leave. I didn't confront him yet because I don't want him to try and persuade me to stay or spin it that it's my fault. I also don't believe in closure, so there's really no use in telling him that I know. Here's where I need advice. I have a place to move to and I have to move all my stuff. I don't want to have him damage my stuff to spite me or something. He has a history of throwing my possessions when angry, so I'll have people come help me move when he's not in the house. We have separate finances, so that's not an issue. The problem is, we have a dog. I adopted him with his approval when I moved in with him. I'm saying it's technically my dog since I do 90% of the dog activities. He rarely takes him out and I buy all the dog toys and dog food. Basically, he's the fun parent that gets only the pets and hugs. I know he loves the dog and the dog loves him, but I don't think he'd be able to take care of him and get up at 6 a.m. to walk him. My baby is also too used to the house and us, and he'll probably be stressed out if I move him. Should I take the dog with me without telling my soon-to-be ex, or should I leave the dog with him? Another thing I need advice for is, should I leave him a note or a message with any explanation? Update 1. One particular comment stuck out to me, that my pet doesn't know what's best for them and they could roll in literal shit and be happy, which really solidified my decision. As a preface, I'd like to apologize. I was paranoid that I could be found out, so I altered a couple of details in the original, one of which was that we owned a cat, not a dog. However, I was still doing 90% of the caring for the cat. On to the update. After reading all the comments and making the decision to take the cat, I called my best friend, her boyfriend and my parents to tell them I'm breaking up and discuss logistics. I also told them to not mention anything in writing on the off chances that So sees the messages. It took me quite some time to put everything in motion, 3 weeks to be precise, in which time I was doing my best to act like everything was okay while secretly moving some of my stuff to my parents' place to ease the final load. Finally, last Friday morning, best friend, her boyfriend and my dad came. We loaded up everything on my father's truck and left. The whole ordeal took 5 hours. I was honestly amazed how much stuff I managed to accumulate for just 2 years. I took everything that I paid for out of my pocket, including a monitor and a headset that I lent him due to his equipment breaking, and he never bought new ones. The only thing I left was a queen-size bed I bought shortly after moving in. I also made sure to log into X's World of Warcraft account to cancel his subscription, which was paid from my bank account. I left a note on his desk that basically said, "Do not panic, you have not been robbed." I just took all my stuff and left. I'm taking the cat with me because I don't trust you to take care of her properly. Do not call me, my friends or my family. We have already had the talk, so there's nothing else to say. Have a nice life, your ex. I didn't tell him I know about the cheating because at this point it was irrelevant. In retrospect, it was just the last straw on top of many other problems. But hindsight is always 20/20. I blocked his number and never looked back. Sure enough, he messaged me on WhatsApp as soon as he came back to the empty flat. The gist of the messages was that we could have done it the civil way, Lamau, and why did I take the cat this way? We raised her together and he loved her. He also tried to call 3 times but gave up soon after. I then blocked him on WhatsApp as well. The next few days were pretty uneventful. Yesterday, he showed up at my workplace unannounced. I was pretty annoyed but didn't want to make a scene in front of the colleges, so I took a break and went out with him to the park across the street. Knowing him, he wouldn't just fuck off and leave me alone. He said he wanted closure and that I owed it to him after all these years. The conversation was mostly boring, so I'll highlight the important details. He said he wanted my monitor back and that he's willing to pay for it or trade me his new one, which is better but wasn't with the same curve that he was used to. I told him that I like my monitor and tough luck. The best part is he went out, bought a new monitor, set it up to play WoW, but realized that I also took the headset. He then asked his mother to buy him one and she bought headphones without a mic. Pity. He asked to have the cat back. He offered me money, offered me all his crypto savings and even offered me 60k gold in Lamau. I told him some things can't be bought with money. He then asked to co-parent and when I said no to that too, he asked to at least say goodbye to her in person, also denied. I brought up that I'm the cat's primary caregiver and he can't even clean her shit. He replied he could when push comes to shove but didn't since I was doing those things anyway, despite him being in the flat almost 24/7. I also pointed out that if he really loved the cat that much, he'd want the best for her and to be with the one who takes care of her, instead of wanting to keep her for selfish reasons. He kind of agreed on that. The most baffling part, he offered to pay me to go grocery shopping together. We used to that all the time when we were together. I pointed him to a couple of sites where he can buy groceries and have them delivered. He said it was too much work. I told him to adjust and evolve. He also apologized one too many times for hurting me, to which I replied every time I wasn't hurt, I was just disgusted and cringed at the conversations I read, to which he got offended and mumbled that it was private, you know. Not once he mentioned the side chick, even then he didn't have the balls to admit to the affair. In their messages there was a recurring joke that if he comes to the hotel where she works, they'd have to fuck in the janitor's room. I brought her up a couple of times, told him I wished them both the very best and since I left him the bed, he doesn't have to worry about fucking in the janitor's room anymore. He asked to be friends multiple times. I told him, also multiple times, he betrayed me and he's a pathological liar and I don't want to be friends with a dishonest person. He legit couldn't comprehend how his dishonesty impacts a potential friendship. He said he wanted to tell me he wasn't committed to me anymore but couldn't bring himself to do that. I pointed out the hypocrisy of him blowing up at me for platonically talking to male friends online but he cheats the moment a semi-attractive woman comes his way. He said that a woman cheating on a man is the greatest sin but a man cheating on a woman is not so severe. What the actual fuck? The rest of the conversation was him trying to play buddy-buddy and talk to me about his life and me reminding him that I'm not interested in his life and that he's a closed chapter to me. After what seemed to be eternity, we said our, hopefully, final goodbyes and I went back to work. In conclusion, for the past week since I left, I felt like a huge load had dropped off my shoulders. I have all the time in the world, I'm working on myself, I'm reconnecting with people I haven't talked to in years, I'm trying to live my best life and I don't regret anything. There were good times, there were bad times, it was a valuable experience and a lesson learned what to look for in a partner and, more importantly, what not to overlook. Huge thanks to everyone that commented on my post. You really gave me the push I needed to make what I hope is the right decision. I was contemplating whether to write this last update or not. A bunch of things have happened since I last posted and eventually, I figured we are all more or less people who laugh at their own farts and enjoy the occasional justice boner so I decided y'all might appreciate how karma has caught up with X. Disclaimer and some background, I left out a lot of information in the original post and altered a lot of details to make sure X does not find the post and connect the dots. Our real ages are 28, him, 33, me, and 34, side chick. X and I were together for almost 7 years, not 4. X had a chronic disease, nothing fatal if threaded, very manageable and a lot of people with the condition can work. He was of course using it as an excuse not to work, even online work, and mooch off me. We lived with his mother who was supporting his narrative that he is too sick to work. X was abusive, first only verbally but it progressed to physical abuse. I omitted most of this information in the first post because I wanted an unbiased opinion whether to take the cat or not. Even though the cheating was the last nail in the coffin of our relationship, I was actually contemplating leaving him for almost a year before the actual fact and on occasions where he ramped up the abuse. I will withhold giving examples for the time being because the topic might be traumatic for some readers. My last update ended with X coming to work to offer me pixel money for my cat. This was in August 2022, I vacated his flat at the end of July. I thought everything was said and done and I would not hear from him again. Spoiler. I was wrong. Since the breakup he has messaged me about every 3 months on Discord for various bullshit, like how he lost his best friend or asking for photos of the cat. I didn't block him on there in case either of us needed to exchange items we forgot at our respective places. Sometime in March I found out by chance that he's still using my old League account. He has been banned on 3 different accounts for toxicity. I gave him the sword while we were dating but I did not think he would have the audacity to continue using it after we broke up. The kicker is, all it would take would be to ask me to use it and I would have no problems with it. It really rubbed me the wrong way that he could message me with his woe is me crap on 4 different occasions but conveniently forgot to mention that he is still playing on my account. I wondered for about a week whether to let it slide or to just change the password, then he contacted me again about wanting to ask me something. I shot this down and reminded him that I explicitly told him not to contact me. He said okay. This lasted for a fortnight until he messaged me again, saying that he will ask his question regardless. I pointed out how I told him not to contact me and he could not respect even that. So he has learned nothing as he still does not give a fuck about other people's boundaries. The question was, what did it feel like to be with a complete monster for 7 years? Why did you stay for so long? Apparently, the lad was going through some kind of epiphany phase. There were a lot of crocodile tear-laced explanations that followed, the gist of it that he was doing some reflections. He realized he is a complete lunatic and needs help and apologized for how he behaved. I also found out that he spent all his savings and disability money, including the crypto he offered me for the cat. So he could not take me up on the offer to buy my LOL account. Sag. Also, to nobody's surprise, his little affair did not work out. I did not ask for details, but what he said was, I think I finally met a person who is more sick and broken inside than me, which is quite an achievement. Few months prior to this revelation, a WoW friend from the side chicks country messaged me. For context, we are all Europeans and play on the same servers. Friend knew my side of the story, and when he found out that side chick is flying to my and ex's country, he put two and two together. He told me he does not expect much from their relationship since a year ago the chick was dating a mate of his, broke his heart and flew somewhere else for the next WoW guy that gave her attention. Knowing these facts and after what X said, I mentioned to him how it was ironic that he cried cheating. If I was 5 minutes late after work, but decided to involve himself with a woman who was practicing cheating as a sport. He agreed that it was quite ironic indeed and that he had to lay in the bed that he made, which was sort of mature on his part, I suppose. Also, did I mention he was too dumb to wire his own debit card to his WoW account? This is why he could not play anymore? Well, yeah. But I guess also because he lost his sugar mommy that was paying for it and failed to secure another. As for me, Kitty and I are thriving. I am active. I lost 12 kilograms since the breakup and I am getting back in shape, even though I lost the excess weight the moment I dumped the ex. I have reconnected with most of my friends and apologized for not contacting them very much in the past 7 years and explained why. They were very understanding and things have gone very much to how they were before. I have also met the most decent, kind and compassionate man out there. So, life is looking good. Now on to second story. Step-sibling demanded I deed my grandparents' house to my dad after their deaths, but I've changed the locks and refused to comply. I've had a rocky relationship with my parents, divorced since 1999, my entire life. My father married my stepmother in 2000. I was an only child up until this point. She had 4 children from a previous marriage. In the early days of their marriage, she was pretty toxic to me and to my dad's side of the family. Instead of letting relationships between everyone happen organically, she tried to force them. There's a lot of backstory here, and I'm trying to trim a lot of fat to still bring us to current day, so bear with me. When my parents said, my dad was allotted 42 days in the summer, and every other weekend. He often would abandon me to be with her family, things would be taken from me and distributed to her children, etc. He would always try to buy me off with gifts to make up for hurt feelings. I often felt like I was on the back burner. I spent that time with my grandparents instead. My grandparents decided to deed me their house when I was 9 because of this. So I'd always have a home when they died. That's always been a sticking point to my father. He would say things like, that was such an irresponsible thing to do of them. To deed property to a child. It clearly didn't settle well because he has still made comments within the last few years to other people. My stepmother got into an altercation in 2007 where she shoved my grandfather in his front yard to the ground. I was 15 at the time. We didn't see my grandparents for 8 months after that, and that was after his stroke. Every time my dad would pull some nonsense or defend his wife's actions, my grandmother would be petty and change the will. Slowly keeping land from him for when they pass. After this incident, I often wondered why he didn't leave her. They both have a history of only thinking of themselves to the point my grandfather died with poor credit because my dad took out loans and cards in his name. Before he retired, he didn't save a penny. He's been grifting in ways. He has military retirement, but my stepmom blows through it. I've been married for 8 years and I have a child. Before I had mine, my dad and stepmother had 7 other grandchildren. They now have 11 total. My daughter is the only blood relation to my dad. He didn't get to see her because my stepmom kept him from seeing her for the first 3 years of her life. When they split, I feel like I get quality time with him, and I've learned to set boundaries over the years to keep me or my child from being hurt. I've spent the last decade of my adult life trying to heal my inner child and not carry that baggage into my child's life. Learning to love and forgive. If not forgive, at least make peace. I've tried to rekindle a relationship with my father so that he can have a relationship with my daughter. Him and my stepmother have been on the rocks for 5 years and have separated twice. He can't seem to get away. Given where I am in life, it feels like they want something. If not now, then when? I am married and own my own home. We make a good income and work hard for what we have. I've been dreading my entire life for the moment that both my grandparents would be put to rest. It's been difficult in itself to process the loss of someone who was essential in my upbringing. Showing unconditional love and teaching me how to function like an adult when I was ready to step into the world. Well, that time is now. We laid my grandmother to rest at the end of last year. The way the deed was made, it transfers to me immediately at her death. My dad doesn't know I have seen the will. I chose not to say anything to have the upper hand. One of my step-siblings has already asked me to deed the house to my dad and stepmother in private. It's all so fresh and I find it incredibly distasteful to reach out to me when we are still going over the process of settling an estate which is now a lifetime trust. Someone had to have given her my number, as I changed in 2 years back and was very selective who had the new number. Her children would often ask us for money and it got tiring. I felt used after a while. My dad stayed at my grandparents' house during the week of the funeral. He's been taking things out of the home for years. Little things here and there like vintage glassware, etc. Out of a precaution, I have changed the locks and put cameras up. Not just to keep them out, but because various caregivers had keys to the home and it's sitting empty for the time being. There's a lot of work that needs to be done but will have to take place this summer. I have no intentions on giving him the house. His attitude has changed with me and he won't answer my daughter's calls. It is all very subtle, but enough to cause alarm. I'm afraid he will take from the sheds, break in or try to fight me over it. Perhaps he's still grieving or he now knows I've seen the will. Am I the for refuse considering to give it to my dad? It's not like they left him with nothing. He gets stocks and acres. But the way the will is drafted, everything he owns goes back to the estate, and to me. Not to his wife and her kids when he passes. Am I handling this right? Update 1. It's taken me 31 years to really see beyond the rose-tinted glasses of the relationship I thought I had with my father. I did cancel his flight. He did not help us move, but I did end up engaging with him to keep the peace. Quick recap, I inherited my grandparents' home. Father and stepmom wanted to move in. I said no. Dad then decides to leave evil stepmom and reconcile. Wanted to temporarily move in with us. We said no. He was insisting on helping us move and we ultimately said no. We are essentially estranged and he's never really been a parent to me. Would rather love and bond with my 3 step-sisters and all their children than his only child and grandchild. I previously entertained reconciliation only to be strongly dissuaded by my extended family and Reddit. A week before making the move he did come to Kentucky and leave my stepmom as he had said. How he did it was cowardly. She was doing laundry on their last day in Texas at their RV and he got in her vehicle and split back to Georgia. Leaving her without transportation. Her children are angry. Once he got to their RV in Georgia he parked the car, packed his truck up and trailer and headed to Kentucky. He spent a week here on his property next to my inherited home. I inherited his parents' house for those that do not recall. He was essentially camping in a small trailer he would haul stuff in for flea markets and gun shows. He asked if he could use my water hose so he could shower and I agreed. I have cameras outside so I thought, what could it hurt? Well, here's where I was wrong. I then get a call from him that water is pouring from under the house. I told him to shut the water off. The house has been having leaks since I took possession as it's got 60-year-old plumbing that will be replaced with the sale of my home. I had my uncle come to confirm and then scheduled a plumber to come look at what needed to be done. This was just 5 days before we would get there with a moving truck from Florida to KY. A pipe had split under the sink and the water heater had busted during the winter. During this time a storm came through and the power went out. He found a key I had in a flower pot for the plumber and went into my home. When we got there he told us he sprayed the yard for ticks, did pest control and also cleaned and sprayed for pest inside the home. I was livid. I didn't react angrily because at the time it felt weird. I was questioning whether I was wrong and he was actually wanting to be a dad to me after all this time. So I let it go. That illusion has since passed. We've been here since mid-June and now I've discovered he's robbed us blind. He's denied it all of course. Tape had been removed from an old chimney hole, assuming looking for money. Green dishware has been stolen and put on consignment in town and at another local place 40 minutes away. Anytime we have a subcontractor out to give bids on the remodel he just shows up and tries to hijack the situation. He talked to me like I'm stupid in front of my husband. That surprisingly didn't go well. My husband is as docile as it comes, but that was the straw that broke his silence in all this. My dad didn't take kindly to my husband telling him he needed to mind his own business and be respectful to his wife. He's now staying at one of his cousins in an RV. He's still moving forward with his plans to put a tiny home on the land that is nestled between me and my uncle. My extended family tend to avoid him like the plague even with his repeated efforts to enter the fold. He showed up to their home on the 4th of July with a lawn chair to see fireworks uninvited and they didn't ask him to leave. Sometime in July we noticed my dad had messed with the propane heater. It no longer had the pilot light on, and the dial had been moved to 1. Which is on the opposite side of the dial as the pilot setting. Either that was incompetence or he was playing with fate with our lives. His granddaughter's life. He of course denied it. I am under the impression we are all in fear of his retaliation. My husband has no such fears and keeps threatening to go into the consignment that has my stolen glassware and making a scene. Honestly, I'm at the point that I'm just going to let my husband deal with him. I'm no longer emotionally exhausted and just annoyed. He shows up randomly with food which I immediately throw away. The last one had a note on it for my daughter. I wish I had a happier update, but this is what it is. We close on the sale of our home next week and start remodeling soon. I've let my contractors know the situation and he's not to be on the property. I feel bad having them in the situation. I'm worried he will vandalize the house my grandparents left me while we are in our rental.